there's so many Michaels that I feel like sometimes I'll just go to a party or something and there'll just be like 4 mics, or like you're in a class and it's like 3. Like I had that problem in like elementary school when there was like 4 Ryans in my fucking class. Man.
Oh yeah.
Like, shit is. That's just how it is, man. I guess like those parents were just like, Mike, Ryan, that's dope. Like
We'll
I
go
don't
with
know
that. That's
what.
as far as we're going. Yeah.
It's just like they were just like, okay, nobody will have that name.
I think I had 4 Emilys in a class one time.
Wow,
I think
that's a lot
that
of
might have
Emilys.
been, and 2 of them had the same like last initial. Like there were
Okay.
2 Emily S's.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's too much, man. Now, I feel like maybe I don't know. I would like to see some kind of study done on the originality of names by country, and see what country has the most original names.
Like the most unique instances of names, like the least likelihood of walking into a bar and finding somebody with your name.
100%. That's it. Fuck yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. This is BOPCAST.
Oh, are we going?
We are on.
This is okay. All right.
I've been starting it and just basically being like, all right, we're going.
All right.
Because, I don't know. I just like to do it that way. I feel like it just...
I'm good. Well,
Instead of being like, okay, I'm going to...
All right, here we go. Yeah.
But, yeah, man.
Plus, we've already been talking for like 20 minutes. So.
Exactly, bro. Exactly. I appreciate you coming on here, man.
Happy to be.
We met through a mutual friend, Jason, 2 mutual friends, Jason and Brandon. And they're the boys. Shout out to them. If you're watching this, boys, appreciate it. And we wouldn't be here without y'all. Crazy people they are. They just connect people. I don't know.
Oh,
They
yeah.
just know people.
Well,
We talked about it before.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying earlier, Brandon Ferrero is literally my oldest friend. I've known him since 2nd grade. So, like, he's like one of the few people that I've known for longer than a decade.
Wow.
And so,
Yeah.
Fantastic guy.
So you're a musician, producer, mixing, just you kind of...
Yes.
Kind of
Yeah, so it's yeah, but also Purple Door Records. That's the name of the shit.
I'll link
it's
it
really,
all in the show notes.
Yeah, you'll see all that shit. But yes. So I mean, the idea of it really was okay. Well, I mean, I know that there's a lot of people who are making music, because I mean, I went to school for music. We were talking about that, and so I mean, you go to Boston, of course, at music school, everybody's cram packed trying to get music done. But I know that just in local areas like Galloway, like South Jersey, there's a lot of people who are just trying to make music, and they're having a hard time. Like before I started really doing like the Purple Door record system, or like that whole company, if you will, that whole business was like I'd just do things like on the side for people, and so I'd have a couple people every now and then and be saying like, oh, you know, this is fantastic, because you know I used to have to drive like 6 hours to Pittsburgh and spend thousands of dollars to get my shit made.
Or try to record it in their...
it
was just terrible.
Yeah, or I'd have to do it in my garage. Or like,
closet, right?
yeah, you just throw a fucking blanket over the
I've done
the
it.
door.
I've done
Everybody's done it. I did that when I was...
a whole album like that.
Yeah, I did that while I was up in Boston, too. Like the last couple lines of an album I had to do like that.
Yeah.
A full mattress up against the thing. But yeah, I mean, I know that on the sort of entry level of music, where you're just kind of doing it amongst the other things that you're involved in.
And you don't really know what's gonna happen with it.
Yeah, like you're just like, all right, well, I'm gonna start doing it. There's not a whole lot of accessibility for the knowledge and resources that it takes to make that sort of thing good. Because another thing that I would hear all the time before I really started Purple Door Records was I'd have people saying like, oh yeah, there's this place that I go to, and it's like $50 an hour that I gotta go there, and a 2-hour minimum, and we spend most of the time like mixing the song while we're there. And so it was either was really far away, or it was really, really expensive process. And so I was like, all right, well, I mean, I've got the knowledge base to be able to help people with this kind of thing. And I think it's really been a positive thing for a lot of people, just because I've already had like dozens and dozens of people come in and record, and they all sign the door. So it's like you can, like, because there is a you asked earlier if the front door to the studio was purple. The front door of the house is, but if there's actually a decoration downstairs, which is a door that's like screwed to the wall.
That's so cool, though.
And so
I love that. So that's the one that people
That's the one that people sign, yes. And that's just propped up. That doesn't go anywhere. I'd like to say that doesn't go anywhere. If I had an FAQ section, it would be, does the door go anywhere? No, it does not. Don't yank on the doorknob. You're going to destroy the door. But yeah, so it's been really fun just meeting like all kinds of people who haven't been able to make music before, or they've been spending too much time or money trying to do it other ways. I think it's been really gratifying to enable people like that. And it's all kinds of things too. I mean, it's a lot of SoundCloud rap. You know, I get a lot of people who will come in and they'll send me the links to the type beats that they find on YouTube, and they'll have me illegally download them.
My first EP was 8 songs of beats that I had no permission.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, but I mean that's like we were just saying. That's what you do when you have like that's the first thing you do. Yeah, I mean that's the way people get started, because it's expensive to get your own instrumentals. So I get a lot of people come in and we'll work with these type beats, and they'll record vocals on them, and I'll mix the vocals onto them. I'll master the thing, and then we'll put them out. And that's a very quick and cheap process, just because I mean, like I keep saying entry level, but it's just like, all right, you just got to have something out on the internet. All right, you don't have to spend $400 to get this Da Baby freestyle remix recorded. Just put it down. And so you get that sort of thing, and then I've got a couple rock bands that come in, and I've got a really great relationship with this place called Greenbrier. They're a house venue. And they're one of the alphabetical cross streets from Jimmy Lee's up near the hospital. Gotcha. Yeah, there's a place around there, and so I go and see some of the rock bands there. They play there. You
gotta let me know about that if they're ever like performing or something.
Oh yeah, I think they've got a show on the 21st this month. But yeah, that's you're gonna have to. Hi Greenbrier, what's up, Tom? How you doing?
Shout out to those guys.
Yeah, shout out to the Greenbrier people. But yeah, there's that sort of thing. Like I had a guy come in and do like a man band thing where he like played guitar, and then he played like the fucking cello, and then he played a bass, and so I also had a gospel band come in, and they didn't sing in any English.
I bet the energy of that.
It's like it was crazy, because the fun thing about I mean most of the time when people come in, it's English speaking stuff, and they spoke English with me, but they did not speak English with each other. And so normally when I'm in the studio environment and people have brought their friends along, you know, I'll like once they're talking to each other, just coming up with ideas, I'll be tuned in listening so I can anticipate their needs. So they'll be like, "Oh man, what do you think? I think it needs, I don't know, like it's missing this sort of thing, or it needs some of that."
You gotta change that.
Yeah, like these sorts of things. And so I'm listening to that so I can be like already whipping it up on the computer. Mm-hmm. I couldn't do that with the gospel band because because
had no idea what they were saying.
Because I didn't like they would discuss their ideas with each other in a different language, and then I just kind of had to sit there and there were like 6 of them too. So it was really high energy, and it was a lot of fun. Honestly, I learned some cool stuff. In that time. But I mean, it's just like I was saying, there's so much music and so many different kinds of music that are happening, and people just like it's kind of nice to know that, because I know that if I wanted to make music and I couldn't, that would be heartbreaking. Like it would be,
it sucks,
or it would be seriously depressing. Like I mean, I've been in the good fortune to be able to make music my entire life, but I can't imagine being like, man, I'll do the music thing when I save up enough money from, like when I pinch enough pennies from the day job, I'll drive out to Pittsburgh and spend $1,000 on that shit. But like it's really cool to be able to help people like that.
So let's talk about I don't know, I feel like you made like an interesting transition, which I just had an artist on, her name's Kia. She quit, she kind of just stopped everything she was doing in her life to pursue music, and mm-hmm. I have never done that. I do so many things and try to do music. So I have a particular, I think people, to rephrase it, I think that there's a particular type of person that's going to do that, and so I have a lot of respect for those people. Mm-hmm. And I think that is cool. So like your journey so you went to Berklee College of Music,
yes,
which
Boston,
is a very famous music school.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, world-renowned music school, I would think. So and you stopped like halfway in, I think.
Yeah,
so
I got through about 2 years of that. Well, so it was a great school. I mean, I had a good time, and like the teachers were great. The city is really great. I had really good friends up there. I lived with my pals Kevin and Cooper, and I was in a band up there. We had a lot of fun, but it was a deal where I started to realize that the thing that I know myself to be in love with, which is music, wasn't fun anymore. Like it was sort of because I mean, you can suck the fun out of anything in school. I mean, but yeah, like there was something about just the process of like, man, I gotta get up and do page 43 and do the voice leading, and I gotta solfege this in order to perform for my ear training team. Like something about the way that music works.
Very structured too.
Yeah, in the academic sense with music, it got to a point where I felt like my time would be better spent building something for me and that could benefit other people as well. Because I mean, and it's interesting too because I've been mixing for a very long time. I started mixing in like middle school, and of course that shit was garbage. It's out on the internet somewhere. But I mean, but I started doing that. I actually didn't. I don't think I had really any mixing courses while I was up at school. Like that would all have been like the last 2 years of the education, and it was a very difficult decision going into school what I was actually going to go for, because I really wanted to do film scoring. Like I thought that would have been really cool because I think film scoring makes that kind of orchestral style of music accessible. Mm-hmm. Because if the Jurassic Park theme wasn't the Jurassic Park theme, nobody would give a shit about it.
You're right. It's what it's associated with.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh, that's gonna be a really cool way to do like really smart and cool music that people really like. You put it in movies, and so it was between that and going for the mixing and production thing. And at the beginning of the process, it was like, all right, so I can either take this opportunity to spend a lot of time and money learning something that I know nothing about, which was film scoring. I never did that shit before, or continuing to refine something that I already had a pretty reasonable skill with, which was mixing. And I decided to go for the film scoring thing. And I think somewhere in the process I realized that might have not been the best idea, just because, you know, it's like it just, because the other people in the film scoring department were people who were already passionate about film scoring, like already had a portfolio. And so you throw yourself into that, and it's just like, oh boy, I'm the guy who doesn't know what he's doing here.
You're looking at all them.
And so not to say I missed out on any opportunity there, because I mean, obviously I'm here doing what I do now, but I think that was like about halfway through, and I was just like, oh, I don't know if this film scoring thing is going to happen. That started there. I was also it wasn't much of a money thing, but it was a lot to do with, you know, music wasn't any fun anymore. You know, I was not particularly healthy in any right up at school. It's like,
which is health and college experience don't go hand.
Oh yeah, no, they do not go hand in hand. And I mean, like, because I wasn't doing well up here. I wasn't doing well. Like, I wasn't like, just generally felt like a disgusting person. And like I was eating Wendy's 4 times a week. As great as Wendy's is, you don't feel like yourself after you've eaten your 8th. Yeah, once you've eaten your 8th Baconator, you don't feel like yourself anymore. You truly become what you eat, and at that point, you are processed food. You are the Baconator. You are the Baconator. But yeah, so like the good stuff was great, but the just the environment and the actual academic setting just wasn't. It got to a point where I realized that it wasn't fun, and I would rather take that time to do something that I knew would mean something to me. So
was it a moment? Was it just over time? What was the switch?
It was gradual enough, but I definitely remember the point in like the 4th semester where I at least remember the moment where I decided to call my parents and like tell them, because I don't remember what did it, but I remember like sitting on my bed, and it was like 10 o'clock at night, and my roommates are like, or I don't remember who was there because I didn't like socialize with anybody, but like they were out like in the other room like getting drunk and playing Fortnite or some shit. And college, yeah, like doing college. And so I remember just sitting in my room, staring up at the ceiling, and just hearing that, it was like a garbage guy out in the alley, and I was just like, I can't keep doing this shit. Yo, Dad. And I'm coming. And they were very supportive of it too. You know, they my parents have always been very supportive, and I think that's part of the reason that's most of the reason that I am the person that I am, is just because my parents have been very, very supportive. I mean, my dad's a musician. He's a guitarist, and he's been a guitarist his entire life. So I mean, he's actually thrilled to have me working in music the way that I am. And so it really helps to have people that just believe in you. Whatever crazy shit you say, they're just like, all right, cool, what do you need? It really makes a difference.
I think that's the determining factor for a lot of things, and a lot of people for a lot of things happening to a lot of people, is that there's somebody in there who just keeps the faith locked down, you know. And like for you, that was your parents. I think that's great, man, because that's a good example for, like, you know, we're all gonna be, well, not all of us, a lot of us are gonna be parents one day, you know, and we just gotta realize, like, the difference between, like, your dad, like, if your dad had the attitude, like, what are you talking about? Like, there's no, you have to keep going and through this. Like, your life would have maybe, like, you probably would have not been here. Like, a lot of things couldn't. Wouldn't have happened. So
nothing would be the same.
It's important to note, you know, that you had that, and I like that you talk about that too, because that's really good. You know, I think that's just a great example. You know?
And it's just something that I definitely want to touch upon, because I've had several people ask me about this online or just in person. They'll say, like, all right, do you recommend going to music school? And the sorts of things that I usually end up saying to people are that fortunately, music, being an art, is one of those things that you don't actually need a degree for. That doesn't mean you shouldn't know anything about what you're doing, but there's plenty of ways of learning music without having to go to fucking Berklee College of Music or going to Rowan for the music program. You know, if it's not in the budget or it's not in the time, I mean, there's plenty of resources to learn shit, but I think as long as you are learning shit, that enables you tremendously. And obviously I learned a lot of very useful things from a lot of very intelligent people going to a music school. And so the college element of it gives you it becomes a very direct approach, because it's industry professionals going, all right, here's the shit you need to know. Whereas if you're doing it by yourself, just looking shit up on YouTube, you might not even know what to look up. Like,
it's just also, it's a random guy on fucking YouTube.
Yeah, it's just some guy on YouTube.
They might not be professionals. Even if they have 100,000 fucking views, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and it comes back to what I said earlier, where it was like, all right, well, so with music, not needing a degree, because there's not really a right answer for a lot of things. You know, there's common practices, air quotes, around that, where it's like, all right, well, so here's the things that people have been doing for a very long time that we understand to sound normal and desirable, but nobody's going to show up at your fucking studio and throw you in jail if you don't do that shit. Yeah. And I think it's important to know those things, because a lot of amateur songs, even the stuff that I was doing like in middle school, sounded like shit, like, because it was very clear that I didn't know what I was doing. So I think as far as going to school for music, I think you don't necessarily have to, or at least if you do, don't feel like you have to finish going to school. Because another thing with Berklee is that a lot of people would start and they'd get a full-time gig in the middle of school, and then they wouldn't have to finish it up. Like I had so the famous example, literally everybody at Berklee would tell you this, John Mayer. He was there for like a semester and a half, and then his fucking career took off. And so like there's a lot of other like underground guys that the same sort of thing. But like, you know, there's Cooper, my buddy up in Boston, my buddy Cooper. Everybody's gonna laugh at me for saying my buddy Cooper. I say that all the time. But he was saying that he knew a guy who was doing sort of what I'm doing up in Boston, just sort of like he's in the mixing department, and he just like does like amongst his schoolwork, Universal Records will hit him up and go, all right, we need you to mix this song, and then he'll get paid for that. So it's like sometimes people just start.
You're basically there.
Yeah, start getting a job in the middle of it, and they're just like, all right, well, I mean, I don't need to finish this. I've already got Universal Records paying me thousands of dollars to mix their shit. Why do I need to
No,
why do
sure.
I need to do these last three
I've
semesters?
I've had people on the podcast who dropped out, and I've had people who, probably the majority, who stayed in. And I got an offer from a company that I worked for this summer, and I chose it. For me, I knew that this semester I definitely couldn't make the change. Like, I definitely, but, it's something that I think about every day, and that I have the opportunity to go work for a company that I like, and I didn't take that opportunity. Will it be there in the future? Probably, hopefully. I still work for the company, but I'm glad that you touched on that, because I think you knew I was going to ask. That's a big question. I ask everybody that, right? Should you do what you did, right? And this is a very hard question to answer, and I think you answered it really well. And I think that the bottom line is, like, what do you want out of it? If you want to go and you want to learn everything there is to know about music, about from the professionals who teach it, go to college. If your goal is to learn everything you can about music and do it all on your own, then don't go to college.
Yeah,
it's like,
because there are plenty of fantastic resources online.
Exactly, there are, and there's a ton. And the thing is, even if you do them online, most people don't finish those either. It's how bad do you want it? The people that want it, the worst, are the people that are gonna do it no matter what school they go to, no matter what no matter where they are. So I think at the end of the day, it's like, just obviously do. It's very easy for us to say, do what you want. Get whatever your desired goal is, just take that path. But yeah, that's dope. That you can kind of explain that and talk, because that's the crux of a lot of this podcast is just kind of getting it out there and just experiencing other people's stories.
Right, which I think is really cool, just because I mean that's a lot of what music ends up being about. You have somebody who's really putting a part of themselves into their music, and so that's they're sharing some amount of their own story through that. So I think I have serious respect for that ideology.
Yeah, no, thanks, man. I try to keep that. So in the beginning, I say this every podcast, but in the beginning, I'll make it short. In the beginning, I did 2 podcasts by myself, and I realized, or one or two, and I realized it was cool, and people really liked it, and I liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun, because it was just me and my headphones. I was talking.
Yeah.
But I realized that it's not. It can't. My whole thing is about me. Like, if I have to do things that are about other people.
Oh yeah.
And
how many podcasts can you do about yourself?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Or just talk about random shit. Like, at the end of the day, I don't want people to listen to me for that long. So you're probably gonna start getting up start doing home workouts and shit, or start reading some books. So it might be positive, but I do blabber on about shit. But yeah, so I kind of made that transition of I changed the name of it, I rebranded it, and I was just this has to be about people. This is not. The motivation, the mission statement for this podcast is value through conversation. That's it,
good.
And declaring it here on this episode is the first time actually, and talking about it, because I thought about
history.
It. Yeah, history, baby. But when this podcast blows up, then they'll be able to look back and say, wow, he actually did.
He said that shit out loud.
Yeah. But yeah. So what you do now is you basically you stop going to school. Came home. What was the transition like of you? Now you're going to work for yourself. Now you're going to record.
Ooh, all right. People. Well, so
let's get in. Let's go.
It took a little bit to get a little momentum behind it, because obviously I got home and I took a little bit of time to just be like, all right, I'm home. I sort of took. I think I got home in May, and I started working at the middle of June, so I took a couple weeks. Now? This was last summer.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not even gonna guess, but
2018. So.
Yeah. So I got home and I got a job at a casino in Atlantic City, and it just through some amount of connection there.
That's what people do around here.
Yeah, well, you get a job at a casino in Atlantic City. That's that is the go-to, unless you're working at Chili's or something. Yeah. You get a job as a waiter, or you go to
a restaurant.
Yeah.
In the area, you're going to fucking Atlantic City. You're working.
You work at Bally's. You work at Tropicana. So I worked at Ocean. I can say that because I don't work there anymore.
Yep, there you
so
go.
I can say whatever the fuck I want.
You
all right. No, I'm not gonna talk. I'm not gonna talk too much shit. But
bonus clips,
but I worked a customer service job at Ocean. Me and my buddies were resort ambassadors. So we were basically kind of like fucking Walmart greeters. We'd stand at the door and we'd go, "Hi, welcome to Ocean Resort Casino. Can we help you with anything? You need a map?"
There you go.
And that was the extent of it. And it was not particularly fun, but it was that was its own incredible education. And that's circling back a little bit. Everything is a learning experience. Like, there's things that I learned from dealing with customers at Ocean that I apply to dealing with artists.
The experience doesn't even make it a learning experience. You do.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Like, you just pay attention to these things.
Every experience is a learning experience if you make it.
Yeah.
If you're in that mental state.
If you decide to take something from it, because there's things
exactly
like a bunch of customer service principles I've applied to dealing with the artists that I deal with. Not to say dealing with them like it's a headache, but yeah, you know, it's
artist.
Yeah.
I'm an artist. You're an artist. Fuck us.
Yeah.
Suck.
Well, yeah. I mean,
everybody sucks.
Everybody sucks, but there's no
matter
matter what field you're working in, there's difficulties working with people, and a lot of the things that I learned in customer service at the casino I apply to that. But circling back around, I worked at that job maybe 10 months, and awful by the end of it. Like, it was like, didn't want to wake up in the morning. Everything sucked, and I wasn't doing much music, but I was like, all right, I was saving, for as long as I was there, I was saving like every penny that I made, just because I was like, all right, I got to get the money up so that I can quit the job, and I have a cushion there to cover my expenses and the things that I need to buy in order to flesh the studio out in order to get that started. And so that was really how the transition worked. I came home, I worked a pain-in-the-ass day job at a casino in Atlantic City, saved up as much money as I could, and I put every penny of it into creating the setting that is now Purple Door Records. So I bought a new audio unit so I could record bands. I bought a headphone amplifier so that I could have a bunch of people all listening in at once. I bought new heads for the drums. I bought a bunch of furniture. I bought a bunch of lights that change color. You know, I did the whole thing up. Just so that, because I also wanted it to be a photographable space. Because when I was doing this sort of shit before,
that's huge.
Yeah, because
for your own promote. I mean, you're in that. Every single inch of that studio is an advertisement for your business.
Yeah, well, that was something that I realized because
it's branding.
Yeah, because whenever I'd have just friends in to record, or the occasional time I'd have somebody hit me up to come in before it was Purple Door Records, they'd come in and the only picture that they would take would be of the microphone in the cage, and you wouldn't see any of the room. And so I was like, all right, because it was just my basement. It was like there's no shit.
It was a basement.
It was just a basement, and so I was like, all right, I need to do this place up so that when you walk in here, you go, oh shit, yo, dude, take a picture of me on the fucking Dr. Seuss chair. And it really works out, and it's also very nice. It's also a comfortable environment, just because I think a lot of times when you see videos of people in recording studios around here, especially, and I'm sure all over the place, they're kind of dark, and they've always got like red lights, and you can't see anything, so you don't even know what the room really looks like. I'm very transparent about what the studio looks like. I mean, you can go on the website and you can see every inch of that place in just regular lighting, and I've usually got it's nice that it sort of feels like a living room. I mean, it's got like comfy couches. It's got
huge.
Yeah.
Like, for me as an artist, like when I come in, I already know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I probably already wrote all the lyrics. But so I'm not really looking for a space to like it wouldn't typically matter to me, but it just, even in recording, just feeling comfortable, because I have to get in the same headspace as you have to get in the same headspace as you do when you write the songs. So whatever makes that easier, like that's.
Yeah, I didn't want it to be, and especially since a lot of the people that I work with have never recorded before. Like, I've had so many people come in, especially earlier this summer, say, like, they came in and they were just like, oh yeah, I've never been in a studio before, and I'll always be like, calm down, dude. Don't forget we're in a basement right now. And so I try to keep it very comfortable in that right, and I think it's been effective. And plus, it's a space that I have to sit in. Like, after everybody leaves, and I got to sit here and hammer away on the actual technical stuff,
it has to be cool
on the mixing. Like, I have to enjoy sitting in this space, and so it's that much of it has been really cool. I feel like there was something else I was going to say about that, but yeah, that's
it a no-brainer for you? Like, was it like when you started working at the casino, you were like, yeah, well, I'm just gonna start this thing, so I might as well just save some money up. Like, it was basically like you get out of college, you have that time of like, I gotta regroup a little bit. In that time, you made the decision, and then you worked them, like, so you had it from the beginning.
Yeah, so many steps are planned out ahead.
That's what I'm trying to emphasize for people is like, if you're gonna do like most people, especially people like who have your expertise, like they can do what you do. Like they can do what any of us do. They can start their own business. It's just the actual planning. Like for me, like that's the easiest part. Like the execution is hard.
Yeah, and it's very easy to plan things and feel like you've accomplished something. Exactly. Like I have absolutely been guilty of in the past. It's like, all right, I got 1,000 things I got to do. Let me make the list. All right, I made the list. I'm going to go to fuck to sleep. Yeah. And then the next day I'll get one thing done and they'll be like, all right, let me rewrite the entire list and without that thing on it.
List is like part of the list.
Yeah.
So that feels good.
Yeah. And
so I rewrote my list.
Like there have been times where I've rewritten lists after accomplishing things just without that one thing on it, just to feel like I did some shit. Like it's very easy to like almost feel addicted to planning, but I think part of the reason that my parents were so cool with me saying that I didn't want to go to school is because one of the immediate questions, they were just like, all right, well, so what do you want to do? Because I'm sure if I was just like, yeah, I just want to quit school and sit at home, they would have been like, you got to do something. And so it's just
figure it out. Just don't worry about it. Let me just chill for a second.
Yeah. So it really helps it really helped that I was like, all right, I want to come home and I want to start. I want to figure out how to start a recording business. And then we're like, all right, cool. And so it worked out that way. And it took a little bit of time because, I mean, I didn't want to have to be like, hey, Dad, can you pay $8,000 to build the studio? We're like, no. So, I mean, some things you got to just, all right, suck it up and work at the casino for a little bit. But it really worked out. And it actually really did work out because about a month after I quit that position, the position dissolved. Like, they were just like, oh, yeah, that resort ambassador job doesn't exist anymore. Yeah.
We're cutting.
Yeah, I left, and then a month later, everybody got cut. So I was like, whew, I got a month head start. All right.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah, it really timed out. And it's just been promoting and working ever since then.
I got a particular question for you.
Yes.
So, like you said, you have a good amount of starting, the struggle rappers, which I am myself one. If they're writing a song, right? If they ask for your help, do you give them like songwriting help, like structure? Like, does that happen? Like, that could be a particular question. That maybe
occasionally, I think a lot of the times people will come in and they'll have their lyrics down, but they don't know the exact rhythm of it, and so like a lot of the redoing takes is they're just like, hold on, let me figure out how this is supposed to go.
It's not an inflection retake; it's an actual syllable retake.
Yeah, and which is actually something I think a lot of people don't think about. This is that people call it flow. There's a lot of like I could fly off an entire hour-long podcast about what the fuck flow is, how all that shit works. But I think people often neglect that when you're writing words, you have to write, or it helps to write the rhythm with it. Because I've never written a song or a verse or anything without knowing exactly how it was going to fit.
And sound,
too,
because the words on the paper are different than the sound.
Yeah,
it can be for the next.
Because it becomes your job to make it sound cool, and then again we talk about flow. But I think a lot of people will come in and they'll have words written, but they don't know the rhythm to it, and then it becomes a lot of work and that stuff out. And I'll occasionally help people with that, but most of the time I don't end up having to help out a whole lot. I mean, I've got a couple people that I work with a little bit more. A little bit more closely with, where they'll like really take their time with things, where it'll take like several sessions to get a song done, because they come in with like nothing written and they'll be like, all right, I've got an idea for this sort of thing. I want to do this sort of thing with the instrumental. I love that stuff because
I respect. I will never. I shouldn't say never. You won't catch me doing that for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
I'm just so much of a planner. But
yeah.
So for me to go in, this is the thing. They trust themselves so much that they don't have to think about when they know when they get there, it's gonna pop up in their head and they're gonna make the song.
Yeah, and a lot of
I think of it differently, so I wouldn't be able to do that. So respect to those people.
Yeah.
Like I worked with shout out Beach Links. He's been on this podcast. He's recorded for he's made his beats are insanity, dude. They're like him. He was in a group called Ground Up. They were pretty pretty large rap group, and that dissolved. But we were talking one day, and I was just recording. I recorded an album with him in Philly, where he lives, and he was like, some of these guys just come up and just don't have anything, and they just rap the whole song, and I'm like, how the fuck, how? Like, and it's good, and and I'll listen to it, and it's good, it's really good, and it's like that's a whole different thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have, as a person with zero freestyle capabilities, it has been fun.
I can do that though. I can freestyle, but I don't. I couldn't make a song freestyling on this. I probably could, but I wouldn't want to go to the studio and do it.
Yeah.
I want to do it in my room.
And a lot of the times when people come in and we build stuff from the ground up, it takes a few sessions. We'll get the idea for the instrumental down, and have them they'll put a melody to it and be like, all right, bounce that and send it to me, and then I'll write the rest of the song for next time. And so a lot of I think that sort of stuff is very fun for me, just because it's a lot more engaging in the studio setting. I mean, obviously, if you've got all your shit prepared and all you got to do is come and put down vocals, that's very easy for me. So I just, all right, cool, put it down.
See,
put it
that's
down.
the way I like to do it, because I want to maximize time, and I want to do everything that I can do.
Yes.
I don't want, I want to control everything I can control. Like, if I have a graphic designer, right, designing, I'm working with a designer right now to design some things. I'm going to give her an overview of what I want. After that, it's, that's her. She's just going to do it, and I'm just going to step away. That's what I wanted. That's what I like to do for the music is, I have this whole song together. I'll put the vocals down, mixing and just do it. Just hear. I want to listen to it. I might be maybe with the mids or the high, whatever it might be. But, for the most part, I want whoever's doing the job, just do it.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of, detail and, nuance with, a lot of artists who don't. And I'm not, I've been in it for years, but I'm not, a veteran. But a lot of artists that just don't really they don't have the ear yet, so they don't know how to articulate with words what they want. And so I know just from my experience with, shout out to Tyler, he owns the Vault Studio. It's in Boonton, New Jersey. I interned there, and I would just be there absorbing it all, because he was there mixing, recording, mixing, doing everything on the spot. Then they got the rapper over here he's rapped 6 songs, but he's not in the studio that much. Just starting to pick it up, and I'm over there just straight up intake of information, and no, dude, it's that 4th bar, the last syllable. You're gonna, and it just that little that thing. That's so there's that disconnect. It's so hard. It was so hard for me as a younger artist to try to figure out what I wanted, and what actually sounded right. Because I don't know if you agree with this, but I think as you go in music, your ear gets the time the time you spend making music, your ear changes, and you start to realize what actually sounds good.
Yes. Not
what is good sounding music. You actually just get the ear for it.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely true. I think the more that, just like with anything, the more that you practice, the better that you get at it. And I mean, you can absolutely train your ears to.
Never realized that about the ear though until I started really making beats for a few years.
Yeah, because you really start to you get that just through doing it, through listening, through studying. A lot of the every couple months I'll have I don't want to say breakthrough, but I'll discover something because I'll be studying a mix or a sound. I'll put it under a spectrum analyzer. I'll listen to frequency bands of it just to see what the fuck is going on with it. And through studying things like that, I'll be like, oh shit, that's what's different about the professional thing from my thing. It sounds, okay, and now I know it. Yeah,
or that massive whirlwind of an 808 is how did they get?
It's
I have an 808, but the fucking difference between my little 808 and that is leaps and bounds. So that gap is I feel takes years to try to
Yeah, and I never know exactly when it's going to happen. It's not like every day I can go home and just figure out, okay, I'm going to have a revelation about some other shit. But like there was just a couple, maybe even just like last month. You can ask my brother. I was sitting in the basement like banging my head against this shit, and I was just like, it sounds like shit, and I don't know why. And it was fucking it was the fucking 69808 on Billy. I was just like, this song is so weird, but why the fuck is it so hard?
Yeah.
Why the fuck is it so hard?
Facts.
And so, but then after enough time, I was just like, oh, you know what? I think I got a whole new perspective on how this shit went. And then there's like it happens with sound design stuff a lot. It happens with mixing stuff a lot. And so
mixing. Sorry to cut you off, but
yeah, you're good.
I never realized until I started mixing. Until I started automating every single plugin. Like I didn't know what automation was.
Mm-hmm.
When I had been making beats and recording myself in Logic Pro for like at least a year without even knowing what automation is. Mm-hmm. So I never knew what mixing was. Like I didn't understand it. I thought it was just like the volume. And that's But now when I make a beat, half of the time I spend making the beat is in the mix, and that's where a lot of the art is for me now.
Yes.
50% of the art's in the mix for me now, which it never was before.
Yeah. Well, so it's actually very, very interesting that you say that because just with a couple other things you were saying, part of the Purple to Records Instagram page is, I face the frustration where, artists will have a very clear vision of what they want, but they don't know how to articulate it to the person behind the desk. And so rather than just continue to bitch to my dad about that, I was like, all right, well, let me put this information on the internet in a concise way so that people can learn this shit. So that it'd be so like if you just happen upon it, I mean, you're already coming to the studio, so I know you're looking at this shit. Mm-hmm. And so it's just like, all right, so it will be helpful for them to know these things and helpful for me, because then when they want specific types of sounds, they know how to articulate it. So it's one of those teach a man to fish type of things. But as damn, where was that? It had something to do with it was mixing instrumentals. I think that's what makes the difference between good and bad. Like especially when I'm getting these type beats off of the internet, because most of the time, it doesn't take. It takes almost zero skill to write a hip hop instrumental. Like very little thought has to go into it. I will tell you. All right, I'm going to tell you how to make a hip hop instrumental right now. You write a fucking drum groove. There's a snare on 2 and 4. You can put the kick drum wherever the fuck you feel like putting it. Whatever sounds good to you. Pick one sub note, put it over the whole fucking thing. Ratchet hi-hats thing, and pick some sound, whether it be a key or the sound of a zebra bleating, and just put it in the back. That's the whole thing. You've made a rap beat. There you go.
I'm going to take what you just said, and I'm gonna edit it, and I'm gonna put the fucking effects on there.
You're gonna do it.
I'm gonna end it with a trap beat.
Yeah.
Like literally just make that trap beat, and then
because that's all it takes, and and that's why it's so easy to go online and find people that have done this and are peddling them as type beats, just because they're so easy to come up with. You can crank those out really, but the thing that separates good ones from bad ones is the quality of the mix. Because especially since when you rip a type beat off of YouTube, you don't have the stems, you don't have all the separate layers, all the assets for that. So I can't, like, if the kick sounds like shit, I can't fix that. Like, I can't go in and go, all right, let me scoop a little bit of this shit out of here.
EQ to kick.
Yeah, like without EQing everything else.
Yeah,
and so there might be something that you need to take out in one instrument that you need to leave in another instrument. And for those of you who don't know, I think this is something I wanted to talk about on the Instagram page at some point, but the absolute easiest way to describe mixing is sound has space, and the mixing process is making sure that the sounds that you're using in your mix are occupying their own space and not overlapping with each other a whole lot. And that's what makes things clear, because like when you sing a note, like when you just like there's a note that I'm singing, but then there's actually a lot of frequencies that are happening there. I just hit the arm here. There's actually a lot of frequencies in every sound, in a human voice, in a saxophone, in a drum. Like there's a bunch of frequencies in them, and so when you put a bunch of sounds together in a mix, in a song, you're getting a lot of sounds competing for space in the frequency spectrum from low to high. And so it becomes your job with mixing to take things out. Mixing is mostly subtractive, is something that I find. You take things out, like if there's a part of a kick drum.
You're mostly turning down rather than turning.
Yeah, like you don't. It's common practice to start by subtracting things.
Record lower decibel volume. Like that's what I do, is record everything really soft.
Yeah.
And I bring it all up.
Yeah, because it absolutely helps to be mixing at different volumes while you're going through. Like I'll do it once through.
Yeah, like
listening
I was
soft and
ask
listening loud.
Because when you're tracking somebody or you're recording them, like, are you kind of mini mixing as you're going?
Well, so I've got a sort of I've got a preset that I developed myself just in the program that I use. I run an Ableton Live.
Okay. No Pro Tools.
No, I don't use Pro Tools. I think it's I know that anything that you can do in Ableton in one click takes like 4 in Pro Tools. And I've also been using Ableton my whole fucking life. So it's it just, if I tried to switch to Pro Tools, it would just be.
Do you make beats on Ableton?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
My boy does, and I'm a Logic guy. I don't know anything else. I don't know any other DAW. I know Pro. I can do a little bit in Pro Tools, but I guess it's just very subjective per.
Well, yeah, and I won't shit.
That's cool. I really like.
Yeah,
I was asking.
Yeah, I won't shit talk any other DAWs, but I work in Ableton, and so I've got a preset that I've just refined through the years of doing this. That I will, upon walking up to the microphone, I'll just slap that on so that you can hear basically what it's going to sound like at the end, and then I'll refine that.
Some compression and.
Well, so I've talked about this online.
You don't have to go into it.
Well, yeah, because yeah, like this is information that I have put on the internet. So of course I'm willing to already share it. I don't feel bad. There's a lot more complicated shit to it, but I mean, there's something that I hear in more amateur level mixes a lot is the like a lot of times people are very timid with compressors, or they don't know exactly how
probably
they end up.
My mixes.
Probably how. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, because it's very easy to overdo compression too, because you don't want to just slam shit unless you're like Skrillex or some shit, and so people be like, all right, I guess it sort of sounds right. I think when this is another analysis thing, you listen to anything on the radio, and the vocals are pretty even throughout. Like there's not a whole lot of dynamic range happening there, and so like I know off the fucking
like
cuff.
The chorus might be a little bit like.
Well, yeah, I mean
the radio mix is.
Yeah, like
yeah,
it might sound it might be processed differently throughout the whole song, but the actual loudness, the level of it throughout will be pretty much consistent. And I know off the cuff that I think I usually have like 11-1 on a compressor with like a really low fucking threshold. And then like another thing I found is that having the release very low on vocals, because there's a attack release threshold and ratio on a compressor, and for those of you who if you've never used it,
high, it ends up being like really weird.
Well, yeah, because the way you think of it is like, all right, so you set a threshold on the compressor, and what a compressor does is it takes the loud parts of the signal and it compresses them so they're not as loud. And so when you set an attack value for that, which is in milliseconds or something, and upon reaching that threshold, the attack value is how long after reaching that threshold does it start to push the level down. And so you play with that. If you've got a long attack, you're going to get a sound, and that's how you make fucking drums hit. And then with a faster attack, you're not going to get as much of that, so it's going to be
maybe a vocal.
Yes, yeah. So I've usually got pretty fast attack and release on those things, and then release is the same thing. Like, all right, so how long after hitting the threshold is it going to stop pushing the vocals back? And so if you have a very slow release on that, you'll get this effect where it's almost like it almost counteracts the effect of the compressor, because it's not like it's almost, I don't want to say it's like the refresh rate
like
for the
over compression.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, because I don't want to say it's like the refresh rate for the compressor, but when you have a very low release, like that's like once it hits the threshold, it after the release time, it'll check to see if it's over the threshold again. And so if you've got that very low, it's more continuously listening to make sure it's if it's hitting the threshold and pushing it back. And so that's something that if that sounded any amount of fucking coherent, but I mean,
no, it definitely did for people who actually know what the fuck we're talking about.
And another thing is that it's very easy to overdo reverb on vocals because it sounds really
one thing. It's like encouraged though.
Yeah, well, so things should have reverb on them because reverb implies space. This room that we're in, yeah.
And you're right. There's reverb.
Yeah, there's reverb in every space that you're in, unless you go into like that anechoic chamber that makes people like hear their heartbeats. Yeah. Like I don't know if you've ever heard of that shit, but like there's like unless you've got a super treated room, you're getting reverb in it, and you can sort of gain information about the size of the space that you're in.
Specific layout to sound treatment, and that's in response.
Mm-hmm. And so it's very easy to overdo reverb on vocals because, especially since it's so fun to speak into a microphone and have that, like
especially in like some hard trap or something, like you're gonna be out there.
Mm-hmm. So it's another mixing tip. The two things that are really important on reverb are the dry wet setting and the decay time setting, because the dry wet is in a percentage, with dry being the unaffected signal and wet being the affected signal, and
the percentage being the amount.
So at 50% you've got half unaffected and half affected, and if you crank it all the way up to 100, you're only hearing the reverb. Mm-hmm. and that functions as how far away in a space you are. Because obviously if you're very close, you're not going to hear as much reverb, but if you're very far away, you're going to hear more of it. And the decay time implies the size of the space. So if you've got a really long decay time, like 3 seconds, it's going to sound like you're in the fucking hills of Scotland or something. But then if you've got something that's like 200 milliseconds, it's going to sound like we're in a small room like this. Yeah. And so just taking those two,
and also timing, syncing it, like make sure your reverb's synced to your beat.
Oh yeah, yeah, because they're.
I mean, like normally, obviously, anything professional it will be, but if you're, if you're mixing, in your room or something, which I am, it took me, first of all, I didn't understand the difference between input and output volumes. Didn't understand that. Didn't understand reverb time. Didn't understand a lot of, the ins and outs of the programs. So I think like that's why it's like. It's imperative that you tell people, because we don't know, man.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. So I think it's very helpful because it's easy to look at, especially reverb, because reverb has a bunch of fucking dials and sliders on it, and it's very easy to look at those things and go, I don't know what any of these fucking things do, so I'm just gonna touch them until I think it sounds good and move on. But I think it kind of helps to be given a little bit more practical description of what they do rather than what they are, because it's just like, all right, dry wet, I have no idea what the fuck that means. All right, well, so here's what it means. Think of it as this: the more you crank the percentage up, the farther away you're gonna sound. Exactly. There you go. And so it's very. What was the fucking question here? Was like, were
we started at what is that preset that you use?
Oh yeah. But I mean, but yeah, it's just a lot of very specific like EQ. There's dynamic EQ stuff. I've got like Waves plugins are fantastic.
Yeah,
like if
you're running Waves.
Yeah, if you want to go
Waves fucking delay and they're fucking I love them.
Yeah, well, so
dude, I'm pissed. I need this.
Well, so the
anybody has a crack for Logic for the Waves?
Yeah, well, so Waves is great. And now I'm just plugging Waves. I have no association with Waves other than the fact that I love them. Waves, you can sponsor me if you want. They've got fantastic sales all the time too, where it'll just be like, oh yeah, fucking 70% off half our shit, and
no, they do actually.
They do that all the time, and it's fantastic. If there's
on me, I should keep.
Well, yeah. If there's one Waves plugin that I think I use possibly more than anything else that I have, it's the C6 dynamic EQ, which is that when you put an EQ on something, and if you don't know what an EQ is, you can increase the frequencies of a sound separately. So rather than make the whole thing louder or softer, you can make just a certain frequency louder or softer.
From the low to the mid.
Yeah, so everywhere from 0 to 20 kilohertz. Like, just, you can go crazy with that shit, and that's a lot of what mixing ends up being. I was talking about adding and subtracting sounds in order to make space. That's you're doing that with EQ. Yeah. But when you put EQ settings onto something, it's just it stays constant throughout. So if you take 6 decibels out at 1,000 hertz, it's going to subtract 6 decibels from whatever fucking sound you feed into that, no matter what's happening at, like, no matter how much is actually happening at 1,000 hertz, it's taking 6 decibels out of that. But when you have a dynamic EQ like the C6, it works comparably to a compressor where you set a threshold and a reduction amount.
It's almost like an EQ and a compressor.
Well, yes. So
EQ is a compressor.
Well, yeah. So rather than just consistently taking a certain amount out, it'll be listening to how much is going in and take a proportional amount out. And that is something that I use all the, like, you're talking about that vocal chain that I have. That is all over the fucking place on that, because especially, and de-essers work comparably. If you don't know,
I was going to ask you about that. I have this mic that you're talking to right now. Hates S's. It fucking loves just making them.
Yeah.
So I record on this mic too. Just lay my shit down. I do a little bit of reverb, EQ, and compress, and I do about half an hour mixing on the shit, just so I get in the mental state of what I want it to sound like when I do it, when I really record it. But like, I have been on a mission to do anything to eliminate the S's. Yeah. And so, like, do you have a problem with that at all? Or
I mean,
the waves de-essers are good. Right?
Well, so yeah, a lot of times I'll even just use the C6 for that, because so if you don't know what a de-esser is it takes the sibilances out of and it makes them less harsh. And by you, I don't mean you, Sully. I mean whoever the fuck is listening to this in their car. But and so, which is something you usually end up putting on things. And so you would use a dynamic EQ or like a multi-band compressor for that, which is to say that it will only decrease the volume of those frequencies so that they're not as harsh when they show up, but you're not making the other sounds dull. Because if you just if you just find wherever that frequency is and you take an EQ and you notch that out, sure, the sounds are gonna sound level, but then even just other parts of your own vocal aren't going to sound right, because if I'm just going that frequency is still there, frequency is still there, but it's not nearly as prevalent when all I'm doing is hitting that S sound. So if you just go in and scoop that out with an EQ, everything else that isn't the sound is going to sound dull. So you do that with a dynamic EQ or a multi-band compressor, which are very comparable things, but you point it right at that frequency and you go, only take it out when it gets to this certain level. All right, cool. Yeah. And then it works out like that. And so those are the kinds of things. I've got a bunch of EQ stuff. I've got several, at least one of the C6 things on it. I've got a compressor, sort of how I was describing it, and I've got a reverb built in that I just have set to 0 to start, just so that I have something like, rather just don't have to load it in afterwards.
I think there's a common problem with everybody, and myself included, is don't get caught up. You can't get caught up in the screen. You got to just go by the ear. I think a lot of people is like, I know everything's on the screen, but like sometimes if I'm turning something up or down, I close my eyes and I turn it up. And, with you probably, anybody who's like seasoned, you probably don't need to do that anymore. But like, I know I've seen just rappers in the studio and they'll be like, well, just pull that up there. It's like, no, dude, close your eyes. Yeah. Like, don't worry about what they're doing. I've seen, mixing engineers do that too. And just not just don't worry about what's on. Look like. Let's just close our eyes.
Well, yeah, I absolutely, something that I do a lot of the time. Like if I'm, a lot of the times I'll be mixing something and I'll find myself adding EQ after EQ after effect after effect, and I'll just be like, I don't even know if this sounds any good. And so before I add anything else to a sound, like whether it's an EQ or a compressor or a reverb or any kind of spatial effect, I will put it on, do the settings on it, and then I'll put my mouse over the enable and disable button to bypass it or turn it on. And I'll shut my eyes, spam the shit out of it so I don't know whether or not it's on or off, and try to A/B it blindly without knowing which one is active and which one is not active, and see if I can tell the difference or just judge which one is better. And then if I turn my eyes on and it's off, then I just delete the shit because then I liked it without it there.
See, you got that covered.
Yes, yeah. So that is I absolutely recommend doing that. That if you don't know whether or not what you're doing is making a fucking difference, just shut your eyes and blindly turn it on and off so you don't remember.
You gotta learn all of the shit on the screen first before you get the ear, and then that's why it takes long.
Well, yeah, because and another thing that I try to do when I'm doing these videos for Instagram talking about basic mixing things, like a lot of times I'll post something about like I did a video about kick drums, how I EQ and mix kick drums, and I had people in the comment section say like, oh well, you wouldn't do it like that, or I wouldn't do it like that, or in this situation you wouldn't do it like that. And I of course appreciate the conversation. I respond to those people and I'll be like, oh, you're actually right with that. Like let's talk about this shit. And I think in the future I'm actually going to end those videos by saying, tell me how you do it. Like rather than have it be like you did it wrong, have it be like just open with like, all right, I yelled at you for 60 seconds how I do this shit. All right, how do you do it? Yeah. And like I've said a million times in this podcast, all this like there's no right answer into these things specifically. But when I did the kick drum video, it was a lot more about identifying the regions that you should be paying attention to, like what is happening where in a kick drum sound, so that you're not just blindly going in. Like, so if you're just like, all right, this kick doesn't sound good, so I'm just gonna take this EQ and I'm gonna put it there. I guess that sounds good. All right, moving on. So it kind of helps, again, just like I was saying with the reverb thing, where you're just like, all right, well, I mean, I don't know what these specific things do. Okay, think of it like this. All right, well, I don't know, when I'm EQing a kick, I don't know what any of these I don't know what I should be adding or taking out. I was like, all right, well, so think of it like this. This is here, this is here, this is here. Do what the fuck you want. Yeah. And so.
Well, it's experimentation too. I mean, that's like a lot of it is probably is really, at least for me, is just putting in hours and just making the shit and just making a ton of shitty beats and just mixing a ton of songs shittily and releasing shitty mix songs and putting them on speakers, and one song on the tape sounds fucking amazing on some QSC 12s. Yeah. And then another song is like, sounds terrible. So it's like, that's really probably a lot of it too. I get like, was that like for you, it just kind of trial and error?
Well, yeah. Like I've said, I've been doing this sort of shit since I was 14. So I mean, I'll just refine and develop my ear and my understanding of these things as I've been going along. But then, like for instance, I had a guy who was just like, yeah, but in a house song you wouldn't do it like that because you don't need to, you're gonna be sidechaining. And I was just like, you're right, yeah. So and then remember what we said earlier, where it was just like, if you go on the internet and try to teach yourself something, it's just some fucker on YouTube. Exactly. So I understand. I'm just some fucker on Instagram. So I mean, I mean, I like to think that I know what I'm talking about and that I'm being helpful. But if
so many fucking videos, like you gotta just do it for yourself.
Yeah, but it's just So if you watch some shit on Instagram and you're just like, oh, I don't agree with that, it's just like, all right, so yeah, you don't have to fucking do it. Like I like to be self-aware that I'm just a dude online. And
I think that's the best thing to be, and
self-aware, not a dude online. Yeah, everybody on the fucking internet is an idiot.
I mean, being a dude online could be the best thing you could be too if you're really capitalizing.
If you're good at it, yeah.
I think the moral of the fucking story is fucking, we're just people. You're just explaining what you do. You're gonna do it how you want to do it. If it sounds good, which I know it does, it sounds good at the end of the day. That's really all that matters. And the comments is just. That's just people doing it their own way.
Oh yeah, which
they never even mix nothing.
Like I've said, I am totally cool when people do that sort of shit, just because it's like, because everybody does this shit differently, and most of the time it's not like coming at me. Like it'll just be somebody who's somebody will just be like, hey, why are you doing it that way? Like isn't that going to do this? And I'll respond and they'll be like, oh well, this is doing this, and it's pretty amicable exchange. I've only ever had one guy. Like just arbitrarily fucking dig into me. Like it was I did a video where I was talking about the new studio rates, and somebody in the fucking comment section, it was, I actually appreciate this style of humor, this style of diss. It was something like this guy looks like he tries to lecture girls about anarcho-capitalism while he's on pity dates with them. And I, like, as mean as that is to say to a stranger on the fucking internet, I thought that was kind of funny because I love things where it's just like, this guy looks like he does a very specific thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, and everybody has a stereotype for that.
Oh, yeah.
So he was just
yeah, it was, I thought it was funny.
I had a kid, I promoted one of my remixes, and it was like the best remix that I did, arguably, like for the time. It was probably just the nicest rap that I had out on Instagram, and I promoted it, and you know, it did well in the promotion, and had a kid, and he was like, yo, bro, this shit's ass, all this shit. So I replied back, and I'm like, all right, bro, let's see you record a rap, and then we'll see who's ass. And he, like, a day later, he writes back, he's like, my bad, bro, I listened to your shit, it's actually pretty good. You know? Like, that's it. Like, it's like, they mean well. Man, I don't give anybody, like, I used to be that person. I used to actually leave comments on like really big people stuff that like I didn't like, thinking that I was making a difference. Now I won't really, like, I don't even post anything that's like awareness based, that is like, this tragedy's happening. Like, I don't post any of that. I post me. I post what I do. I post what other people do and what I do. And like that, like, I don't want to change. I want to change, like, this is me trying to change, not that. You know, this is me trying to change people, help people, whatever it is, you know, so, but that's, I mean, it's like, so I used to make those comments is like, you know, you just grow up. Those people all grow up. Like, that dude, I bet, grew up when I said that. Like, when he replied that, he goes, shit, like, you know, I was just saying that because I was mad because it wasn't my video or something, you know, like. Yeah,
and I mean, I get it, because, I mean, another thing is that, you know, it's not like I have fucking haters. I mean, no, like,
I literally don't. Like, I have two.
Yeah, okay. like there's.
If you're around,
like, neither of us is big enough to have like a body of haters.
Substantial amount.
But you know, when people say mean shit about you online or even in fucking person, you know, that says nothing about you, and thing. Well, it says nothing about you, and it says everything about them, because if they're being a fucking dick, it's because they're a dick. That doesn't. Yeah. Like.
Anything that they do is a reflection on them at even, you know, 10 times more.
Yeah, like, I just went on the internet to say, hey guys, $30 an hour and free mixing when you record here, and then somebody was just like, I'm gonna say he talks about anarchat. I know.
Make no reference to the actual content of the podcast.
Yeah. So it's just like that's that guy. I mean, so why should I be mad at that guy? He came to my fucking turf and said some dumb shit and left. All right.
Yeah. All right. Great. We got him out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Follow or get the fuck out.
Yeah. Anyway, so I mean, that stuff doesn't really bother me. And most of the time, the exchanges that I have with people are pretty amicable. You know, I'll have like I get a lot of people who DM me asking for studio time. That's how people contact me. Yeah. And I'll have wild fucking exchanges in there sometimes. Yeah. Like and I won't call anybody out, but like there's some sometimes just the way that people communicate. Like you said at the beginning of the podcast.
Sales on Instagram, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I've talked to these motherfuckers, bro. They'd be off the shit.
It was funny. I made friends with a photographer recently, Julia Connor. If you don't, shout out Julia Connor. And she shot for Galloway. It was this artist festival in Atlantic City, and it was all rappers. And so we all came out and we did this and that. And she usually shoots for like bands, you know. She's like,
oh, that's dope.
Yeah, and she's great. And because we knew her, we were like, yo, come out and shoot for Galloway. But now the SoundCloud rappers know who she is. And so now we've got like it's very funny just getting to
that dynamic.
Too. Yeah, it was just like, oh, you know. Yeah. And there was another photographer, Kevin Adams, that I just met very recently, and we had a great discussion about a similar sort of thing. So it's just like, so if you provide any kind of service, just like I said with the customer service thing, you're gonna have people who are asking you weird shit. And so you just got to.
A lot of people that don't care about their time. Mm-hmm. They don't care about their time, so they don't care about yours either. Yeah, and they're totally down with wasting it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I took from customer service is that when when people are belligerent or ignorant, or they're just sort of frustrating to communicate with, like you have to approach that with a certain disposition so that you don't lose them.
Yep. You have to empathize. You have to put yourself in their shoes. Realize that they're coming from a place that they have a thought of you. You have to do the opposite of what they think you're gonna do. Because when you do the opposite of that, they don't know how. They're like, this guy's on my side. Like, what the what? Like,
yeah,
you know. And that's what I do a lot with artists. I'm like, you can't afford it, man. Like, here's like a few tips. Like, this is what I would do if you can't afford, this marketing. Because you're going to be able to afford it in 2 years when you're a little bit bigger. But, like, okay, do this, and then come to me. Like, I always try to give a little bit more, okay, and then it comes back. But we've been going for, like, over an hour. Which
really?
Isn't that crazy? How crazy is that, man? So before we wrap, I just want people to know where they can find you. Purple Door, right?
Oh, yeah. Purple Door Records on Instagram. I mean, that's really where I'm most active. And you'll be able to find my website on there. You can see everything. You can hear work that I've done. You can see the entire studio. There's rates up there, examples of all the production, mixing, mastering things that I've done. And yeah, you just fucking DM me, bro. I mean, I just said it. I mean, literally, if you have shit to do, I'm just hit me up. I mean, it's very easy to go, yo, hit me up for beats, but this was something we were talking about before we started to record, was just approaching it as a business, where it's just like, all right, rather than be like, yo, man, if you hit me up for stew time, bro. Like, I try to we were talking about branding, just try to brand it as like, all right, here's like, try to create a presence where it's like people kind of know who I am, so it's not just like some dude that they've never heard of who's just like, yo, man, hit me up for this. I mean,
this is the fact of the matter. You're the face of the business, right? So everything that the founder does, which I've learned from working with a lot of startups, is that everything that the founder does is a complete reflection of what happens in the business. So, and you're a great representation. I gotta give it to you, man. And you can talk. I think you should start your own podcast. I tell a lot of people this. There's some people that I don't tell, and that's how you know.
Well, there's evidence of it too, because it's all on the podcast.
All recorded, baby. But I would think about it. If you want to, just let me know. I got a lot of information on them.
No, yeah, dude.
But yeah, man. Michael Moore, Purple Door. Michael Moore, Purple
Michael.
Door.
Oh shit.
Studios. Say that 5 times.
Yeah, Michael Moore, Purple Door Records.
Purple Door Records.
Yeah, Purple Door Records. Yeah, I mean.
I like records better, though.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah,
Sounds
Purple Door.
Yeah.
People just call it Purple Door.
Door.
But yeah, I think the last thing I want to say is this. This is another encouraging thing that I end up saying to people a lot is don't be afraid to suck, because it's very difficult to do something that you're not good at, because it's like, it's kind of embarrassing, and it's like not like, it doesn't feel good to not be good at something. But if it's something you want to do, don't be afraid to suck at it, man, because you're gonna suck at it. Nobody starts by doing any good, and there's so many people who will come in to record anywhere, whether it's my place or Lofty Sounds in Pleasantville or any of the places that you described. People will come in and be absolute shit and not even be aware of it, like just complete confidence in their complete incompetence. And I think if those guys aren't afraid to suck, you shouldn't be afraid to suck either. So
get really
like,
good at failing. Get really good at
because
sucking
you're gonna write a lot of shitty songs, and you're gonna have a lot of bad recordings, or if you're making beats, a lot of them are gonna suck outright. But I think if you at least recognize that, we're just like, oh, this isn't any good, that means that you're like, all right, so what's the next step to make sure that the next one doesn't suck? And then before you know it, you're good. Take
it to your boys. And if you don't have anybody in your life that can give you the honest opinion, find somebody, because they'll tell you if it sucks. If they're honest, if they're really honest with you.
Oh yeah, get people in your life who will tell you if your shit sucks, because it does not help you to have people that just go, oh yeah, dude, yeah, you're good. Like that doesn't help.
Yes men never did anybody any good, man.
Oh yeah,
100%. And in the end. But yeah, thanks for relaying this information to people, man. Thanks for coming on.
Oh yeah, no, happy to be here.
Because I was going to ask you if you had anything else for people, and I think that's great. That's great to wrap up and just give people that information. And just you did it, man. Like, people can do it. It's like it doesn't. It's just you got to take the conscious effort to just change and just do it and make it a real thing, make it tangible. You know, and that's what you did. So a lot of respect there.
Yeah, still building it up, but you know,
everything is a constant. It's always in motion. Right?
You start it, yeah.
So, Michael Moore, Purple Door.
Michael Moore, Purple Door Records.
Thanks, man.
Hey, my pleasure.
Anytime. Man.
Real good.
All right, folks, BOPCAST. On every single podcast platform, even the ones nobody uses, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in to this episode, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.
See you around.